Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider TV, as you just heard, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. We got our Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports tumblers. Visit Tuscaloosa alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVOA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Now, over the past week, Alabama football has been busy kind of rounding out its roster and filling depth through the NCAA transfer portal. 3 commitments from the portal since we last joined you last Tuesday night. On Saturday, Alabama landed versatile Michigan State offensive lineman Geno VanDeMark from the transfer portal. He's 6'5", 300 pounds. He played for Alabama's offensive line coach at Michigan State, so he's got experience in the blocking system. He's a guy that is thought of as a guard but has played center, which is huge because Alabama's looking for depth there and also looking for, another center for sure. So the guy has versatility in the system and also, Rodney, has experience. So, as we talked about on my radio show Monday, this is a huge pickup for Alabama.
Yeah, you look at the numbers that they had. I think they went through the spring, most of the spring, because Parker Brailsford set out the second half, with only 12 guys on scholarship. So the numbers that they've added now, Brailsford obviously going to be back with the team. Caden Proctor coming back now. Geno VanDeMark, they're getting those numbers up. I think right now they're at 14 offensive linemen. So they're kind of where they getting closer to where they want to be. But you're right, Gary. I mean, he's got some starting experience. He started 6 games last year. He missed 4 games due to injury. And I think that's the key with him is you talk to people at Michigan State, they say, look, this guy's got a lot of talent, a lot of ability, but he's just missed some time with some injuries.
Having played under Chris Kapilovic already, the offensive line coach at Alabama at Michigan State, how big is that?
No, I think it's really good because I think what it is, the familiarity, they know each other, they know what to expect from one another, so I think that's really important. And again, you mentioned it right off the top, the versatility, the fact that he does have some experience as a center, that's maybe a position that you're really looking for some more depth, some more experience. So, and again, plays guard, started at guard, so he's got that versatility.
Rodney, have you watched video of him?
I've watched a little bit, not a lot.
I watched just a few clips too. Very powerful built guy, and coming out of high school in New Jersey was a national recruit. So yeah, very good pickup for Alabama. Well, on Friday, former Penn State safety King Mack announced his transfer to the Crimson Tide. The 5'10", 190-pounder made 3 tackles as a freshman for the Nittany Lions, so his stats aren't going to jump out at you. But he was a freshman, you have to remember that. And he comes from prep powerhouse St. Thomas Aquinas down there in South Florida. And he's been timed at 10.6 in the 100 meters. So you're looking for speed in the secondary. He's got it. He joins Cam Howard from Charlotte and DaShawn Jones from Wake Forest as a player that we'll get to in just a moment as recent additions in the transfer portal. Of course, Alabama added corner Damani Jackson from USC and safety Keon Sabb from Michigan in the offseason. Tell us about King Mack here and what he's bringing to the table.
Yeah, I really like, again, he played at St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the national powerhouses in high school football. If you can play there and have a lot of success, you've got a lot of potential. You mentioned his speed, 10.6 in the 100 meters. He was a guy, when you look at his highlights from high school, his senior year, great kick return guy. So he could certainly give you something in the kick return game, whether it's a punt return, kickoff return. He had several for touchdowns, and I think he's going to be an outstanding player. Here's the thing at Penn State. People say, well, he played 13 games. He only made 3 tackles. He didn't play a whole lot. But they have a lot of experience at Penn State. They have 2 NFL potential safeties there in front of him and another guy who had more experience. So King Mack's a really good, talented prospect.
All right, now let's get to DaShawn Jones, the corner from Wake Forest. We talked about him last Tuesday night. He was expected to commit, but he did make it official. 6 feet, 180 pounds, and he's got some stats. Last year, 37 tackles, 3 interceptions, and made a lot of plays on the football. 2 years of eligibility remaining. This is a guy, again, at the Power 5 level that's played a lot of football.
He has. And, I talked to George Teague about him, Gary, the former Alabama great. Of course, played in the NFL with the Packers, the Cowboys. Tremendous player, obviously knows the position. He said the one thing he saw about him that really stood out is he was comfortable playing but either side of the field. That not all corners feel comfortable on both sides. But, that's something that he does well. And he's really physical. You mentioned he's not that big. He's only 180 pounds. But, he's not scared to deliver a lick.
All right, Rodney, when we look at these 3 DBs, I think most people are looking at them as depth, but is there any chance that one of these guys is able to come in and win a starting position.
I mean, look, I think competition's really the key. Now, again, when you look at the safety spots, I mean, obviously, I think Malachi Moore, who was working a lot at the safety, along with Keon Sabb, those guys have got a lot of experience, So it's going to be difficult. But these guys are versatile. The Husky position, I know a lot of guys got experience there in the spring, but you know what, Gary? You always need depth.
Yeah.
You never know when you're going to need depth. And Alabama lost so many guys over these 2 portal periods this year in the secondary that the way they have kind of managed that and brought new players in has been really key.
All right, this roster has really come into form, but the portal, while it's not open to go into, there's still players in the portal. You think Alabama's done, or they might add another guy or two?
Gary, look, like we talked about on your show, you hate to make definitive statements because things change, but I would be a little surprised if Alabama doesn't take at least one more player. I think potentially they might take 2. We'll see. We'll see how it all plays out, but I would think at least 1.
Yes, we will see how it all plays out. But, again, Alabama's a draw whether you're coming out of high school or you're in the portal. Well, Alabama football fans are beginning to find out kickoff times for games coming up this fall. The season opener against Western Kentucky is going to be a night game at 6 o'clock. It is going to be August 31st, Saturday night at 6 o'clock. And I like that. It's hot in August. But then on September the 14th, look at this. Big noon kickoff on Fox means that it's 11 a.m. Central Time as Alabama goes to Madison, Wisconsin for the first time in 96 years to play the Wisconsin Badgers there at famed Camp Randall Stadium. Alabama, of course, beat the Badgers 35-17 in the 2015 Advocare Classic in Arlington, but it was 1928 when the Tide went to Madison and lost to Whiskey 15-0. And, of course, Alabama will host Wisconsin next year at Bryant-Denny Stadium as this is a home-and-home. Also, we know that September 28th against Georgia is going to be a huge game at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. All right, Rodney, let's talk about these kickoff times. First of all, the opener, again, August 31st in Alabama, I much prefer a 6 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, they're already talking about that on TiderInsider.com. What a great move to have that as a night game or, early evening game there at 6. And, no, I think the Heat, perfect time.
And when you go to Madison and Camp Randall Stadium, that fan base, those students, they do the jump around and all of that stuff. Listen, I would rather it be an afternoon game or an evening game. But for an 11 a.m. game, travel aside and making your arrangements if you're going to go all the way up there for that early kickoff, I think it always is an advantage to me to the visiting team for an 11 a.m. kick.
Well, I wanted to see what the Wisconsin people thought. They're really upset. They were hoping it would at least be a 2:30 game, but hopefully a night game because they thought Camp Randall would give them a real chance, that atmosphere that they have. So I think it does negate some of the atmosphere.
Yeah, it is, because it is wild up there, that is for sure. All right, it's time for Coach Talk. Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer was at the Greystone Golf and Country Club last week for the region's Tradition Celebrity Pro-Am, and he offered an update on talented wide receiver Jalen Hale as he tries to recover and rehabilitate a serious leg injury that he suffered during spring practice for the Crimson Tide when he was working out.
This season will certainly be a tough one, but I don't want to also say that he would be out the entire year. It depends on how long the season goes, and so he's done an amazing job, and the process and recovery for him has been sped up, just even since the injury happened back in the spring. He's got an amazing mindset about him, and because of that, that's why he's having that progress at such a fast pace.
And Coach DeBoer and former Alabama head coach Nick Saban catching up at the Region Tradition Celebrity Pro-Am. Saban has really kind of kept a low profile around the program since he retired all the way through spring practice. But he did speak with the team ahead of A-Day, but he was not visible during the spring game, which is, I think, a good thing. Give Coach DeBoer his space. It's likely, as we said, just an opportunity to give Coach DeBoer a little space. And Rodney, for Coach Saban, who has already said, I'll be there if he needs me, I get the feeling, though, he's not going to be sticking his nose in somebody else's business, not his style.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting watching him on game day, of course. Coach Saban every week, and he's going to pick the games, Gary.
Yeah, and he's going to be right off the bat. August 31st, they're going to be in College Station for A&M and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And I think he'll do great. The Jalen Hale injury, you heard Coach DeBoer there. Obviously, this was a serious injury. But there is hope that he could come back and play possibly this season. Yeah,
there is. Again, it does look like it was significant, very, very significant that potentially could keep him out the year. But let's hope for the best. Gary, He's got a road back to recovery. But I'll say this guy is extremely talented. A lot of big things were expected of him. So it's a bit of a blow to the wide receiver core.
Yeah, he flashed some of that awesome talent as a true freshman. Well, still to come on Tider Insider TV, Alabama softball will host the regional again. And they'll look to make another run to Oklahoma City. Hasn't been a great season, but it's not over yet. And Alabama men's basketball is loading up on NCAA tournament teams for next year's non-conference schedule. Coach Oates likes to play them tough, doesn't he? The latest list of opponents coming up. And we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Phone lines are obviously open right now. If you want to get through, we'll put you on hold and then we'll get to you. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be right back with the only show that really takes you inside the Crimson Tide over 20 years, I guess closing in on 25. Tider Insider TV will return right after this.
This is going to get tongues wagging because the 14th seed is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Another SEC school gets to host the Tuscaloosa Regional.
Tongues wagging or not, Alabama is hosting for the 19th consecutive year. Alabama's the number 14 national seed, and they will host the Tuscaloosa Regional beginning on Friday. They'll play USC Upstate at 3:30 p.m. Friday at Rhodes Stadium. The other two teams, Southeastern Louisiana and Clemson, are also part of the Tuscaloosa Regional. It's a good regional. I'm telling you, Southeastern Louisiana team's not one to sleep on for sure, and we know about Clemson's history and tradition, so going to be a good regional. Welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Softball is one of 8 SEC teams hosting NCAA regionals. And Rodney, how about this? All 13 schools that play softball, Vanderbilt does not, made a regional. And Texas and Oklahoma that are coming into the league are the number 1 and number 2 overall national seeds. How about that? That trumps anything football's done, my friend. But hosting is a huge deal for the Crimson Tide because they don't lose at home very much at all, and regionals included. And Rodney, listen, there is some discussion nationally about whether or not Alabama deserved to host. But you know what? If they say you deserve, you deserve. And it doesn't matter what anybody says. Alabama packs it out with over 4,000 fans. That had something to do with it. Crimson Tide played a really tough non-conference schedule and had some success. They didn't do great in the SEC. Their first ever losing record in conference play. They only won one series against Ole Miss. But the bottom line is they're at home. And this is a brand new season. And at that facility in a regional, I'm expecting Alabama to make some magic.
Well, Patrick Murphy said it last week, just what you just said. He said, look, no matter what you did in the season, it really doesn't matter right now. It's a new season. It starts all over again. And we talked about this in the NCAA basketball tournament. Alabama did not finish the season well. I mean, obviously they struggled at the end of the regular season. They got knocked out in the first round of the SEC tournament. They go to the Final Four.
That's right. You just never know. And I'm going to tell you this. With Caleb Beaver and Brisky, the freshman, Alabama's got good enough pitching. Pitching's been solid. The offense just has not been there. In their last 81 innings of softball, they've scored in 5 of them. That's 76 scoreless innings. So if they can hit the ball and get some runs, pitching's plenty good up. I expect them to win this regional. Now, they're slated to go to the winner of the Knoxville Regional, which is probably going to be number 4 seed Tennessee next week in Knoxville. But you worry about that when you get there. First things first, Rodney. But I think they're going to play well. Like I said, they fared well against non-conference competition this year. The SEC's been their bugaboo. So with that in mind, with this home field rocking the way it is, as I said earlier, I think Alabama's going to come out and play well.
And like you said, pitching always gives you a chance.
That's right. All right, let's move on from softball to Alabama's basketball schedule as it continues to take shape. On Monday, Matt Norlander of CBS Sports reported that the Crimson Tide will be one of Houston's 3 opponents in the Players Era Festival Las Vegas. Crimson Tide is also expected to play Rutgers in the NIL-driven college basketball event. Of course, that's the former school for new center Cliff Amore. There will be $1 million payouts for the 8 schools in the NIL-driven field. And last week, of course, news of non-conference games with Illinois, McNeese State, coached by Will Wade, and likely Purdue as well. So the game with the Boilermakers is still being finalized. But, Rodney, we've seen it since he got here. Nate Oates isn't going to wait to the SEC to test this basketball team that he has. He's going to play a national schedule and the non-conference. I'm signed up for it again.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. But again, we talked about this last year too, Gary, this past season, was when you play those kind of teams early, you get a really good feel for it, especially when you have a new team. I think playing against that top competition when it comes down to March, I think it's really pivotal.
And as far as the SEC schedule, Alabama's going to play the Tennessee Vols once in Knoxville. Oklahoma comes to Tuscaloosa. They'll play Texas and Austin for the first time since 2017. And then they have home and away games, 2 games each against Kentucky, Auburn, and Mississippi State. I like that. Those are all rival schools for Alabama. So going to be another great schedule, and the Crimson Tide will be ready to go. And coming up next, we're going to be welcoming your phone calls and emails, but also going to get to Alabama baseball clinching a spot already in the SEC tournament. Even with the trip to Auburn this weekend, they're already in Hoover. And as I said, we'll get to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Right there, the phone number's on your screen, 205-348-9882. Give us a call now, Tider Insider Nation. We want to hear from you next. Bama baseball taking care of business against LSU, and it all started with getting that Friday night win at home. And William Hamilton, the former Northridge Jag, right there, the swinging bunt in the 9th inning. Alabama rallied from a big deficit to win game 1. Hamilton was the hero, and they wound up taking the series. They lost Saturday but won Sunday, took 2 out of 3. And clinched a spot in the upcoming SEC tournament at Hoover. But first things first, Alabama is at Auburn this weekend. And as we come back into TITV, Rodney, let's remember this. Auburn has nowhere else to go. But I remember, I think what was Greg Goff's one year here, 2017, I think it was, when Alabama was awful. But remember, they went into Auburn and swept Auburn. Yeah. Auburn will be treating this like it's their World Series, so Alabama better be ready because it's all they've got to play for. It's all they got left. Yeah. They're 6-21 in the SEC.
Yeah. Well, I think anytime, obviously, the rivalry, Gary, too, but I think where Alabama is right now, you want to keep that momentum going.
Do. Yeah. Well, Ben Hess on Sunday looked like the Ben Hess we've been expecting to see all year. He mowed down the LSU Tigers. All right, let's get started on our phone calls. And by the way, we have phone lines open, Stu tells me, 205-348-9882 if you want to give us a ring. Let's go over to Alabaster and our buddy Putty. Buddy Putty. Hey, Putty, what's going on, man?
Hey, Gary. Hey, Rodney. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
The first one's simple, and that is, when does the portal reopen? And then the second one's more complicated. Who makes the NIL decisions for Alabama? Is it Yay Alabama? Is it the coaching staff? Is it the Wild Wild West?
All right, Putty, good questions. First, Rodney, the portal, when does it reopen?
Well, you have the December-January period, of course. Then we had the spring period that just closed. So, really, there's not another transfer portal available for this year.
And as far as the collective and the NIL money, Yay Alabama is the collective. They're trying to raise money. It's allocated. A lot of times people will give money based on wanting to give it to a specific sport or, a specific recruit, possibly. All that comes into play. I think, as we're talking specifically football here, I think Coach Kalen DeBoer is going to make most of the decisions on how the money's allocated in the recruiting and the portal process,
just like
right?
Oates as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the head coaches, so they'll do it. All right, let's get to our email question of the day. And as always, it's brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to your heating and air conditioning needs, KDM Services Corporation serves your family like our family. Will Alabama run more trick plays under Coach DeBoer? That's from Laurie over in Moody. It's a good question. It really is. I understand. I think, and listen, when you saw Lane Kiffin here, Alabama did a lot of stuff. Sarkisian did too, but I think the personality for Nick Saban was play defense and be vanilla on offense, although they did run some stuff. Listen, I think most coaches, Nick Saban didn't want to have to run trick plays. He wanted to have better personnel, line up, and beat you. But I think there'll be some imaginative play calling in this offense, if you will.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think we talk about Nick Saban. He changed a lot. I mean, trick plays, I don't really know so much about that, but, we saw the way he transitioned from that ground and pound running game to really open it up with Tua and Mack and, Bryce. But no, I'm really excited to see. But here's the thing. And we know this. Kalen DeBoer said this. He's going to play to his personnel, just like any good coach would do. So we're going to see a lot of things, I think, with maybe quarterback runs, maybe more this year. But also, I think we're going to see an effective passing game.
All right. Thanks for the phone call and the email question of the day. We'll be back with more phone calls. 205-348-9882 is the number. TITV will continue from Tuscaloosa. There's the phone number again. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you next. Well, last week at the beautiful Dallas Country Club, first-year Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer received the 2024 Gene Stallings Award for his remarkable football season at the University of Washington and his charitable contributions and community service efforts. He did so much there with the city of Seattle, and I'm sure he'll do the same in Tuscaloosa. And on the same night, legendary play-by-play broadcaster Eli Gold, who spent 35 years as the voice of Alabama football, was recognized as the recipient of the Johnny Stallings Award, named after Coach Gene Stallings' late son, John Mark. The Johnny Stallings Award is given annually to an individual, organization, or company, Leroy Jordan there, who recognizes the value of helping others with intellectual disabilities. Their compassion and courage make a difference by giving opportunities. Congratulations to Coach and to Eli. All right, welcome back into the program. Our callers off the air, off the line. Let's go to an email. And we've got it from Hank in Tuscaloosa. If Mark Sears doesn't come back, will Oates sign another player from the portal? Great question. I don't know. I mean, if he comes back, they'll have a full roster. If not, they've still got a really talented roster. I'm hoping he comes back. He did, as a lot of times is the case, came in a couple inches shorter than what he's listed at Alabama. Not that it affects the player that he is. He's the player that he is regardless. But I don't know the answer. If Alabama, I'm sure they won't take a player just to take one, Rodney, but if there's a good one out there. But I'm hoping Sears comes back.
Yeah, I am too, obviously. But that's a great question. I mean, really, we haven't addressed that because, we're still waiting for Sears.
All right, Frances in Bessemer was on the hotline, and she had to drop off, but she wanted to know about the starting kicker. And as we've discussed, Alabama's bringing in, if you go by the Lou Groza Award, the best, even better than Will Reichard last year.
Graham Nicholson. Outstanding kicker. Obviously, he was 27-28 this past year. Yeah, he won the Lou Groza Award. So I think that's one of the key pickups in the entire portal that people don't really talk about.
All right. Thanks for all of the phone calls and the emails. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and wrap up this edition of TITV on a beautiful Tuesday evening here in Titletown right after this. SEC Track and Field Championships in Gainesville. What about the men's 200-meter final? Alabama's Tarsus Oragot. He was blazing fast. And not only did he win, his time of 19.75 seconds is the third fastest in collegiate history, not just SEC history. Alabama's Victor Kiprop also earned an SEC title in the 10,000 meters. He has been the best 10,000-meter runner in the country the last few years. Alabama men's team finished second at the SEC championships, behind only Florida. Alabama's women finished ninth overall. Well, thank you for tuning in to Tider Insider TV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Reminder, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or find it anytime at WVUA23.com. We're going to leave you now with some rookie minicamp video. J.C. Latham, Jermaine Burton working out with their new NFL teams. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Good night, everybody.